All right, let's get right into this. Today we're going to talk about how to build a professional sounding vocal chain using just stock Ableton plugins. And this is the fourth time I've shot this video just due to issues that I've been having. So hopefully the fourth time's the charm here. Let's get right into it here. So today we're going to be using this little cover. It's like a little vocal mixing cover, I guess I did, of Savannah by Jensen McCrae. And this is I did mix it with just the normal plugins that I would normally mix, just to kind of have a target to shoot for when we build the stock vocal chain here. So I'm just going to play a snippet of that real quick here so you can hear what kind of we're shooting for.
There is a fire not without it on Bellevue, a bloody face coming, you were a time bombing.
So on this, it's basically just a series of, we got the Antares Autotune first on the chain there. Got Slate Virtual Mix Rack with just one of like their vocal like presets with a little bit of tweaking here. That's mostly just for the saturation and the color. And then, EQ, Waves R Comp, Fab Filter Pro Q3 for some more EQ, the UAD Tube Tech CL1B. This is a great vocal compressor. And then also the R De-esser from Waves. And then finishing it off with just a little bit of, a decent amount of reverb here, and that's Valhalla Vintage Verb. And let's just give a listen to the dry vocal take real quick. This is done with on this mic that I'm sitting at here, this Shure SM7B. So it is a dynamic mic, and it's not probably the ideal choice for singing a song like this, but it's the mic that I have on the desk, so it's what we're using. And this is the dry take here. Oops, let me turn that on.
There is a fire not without it on Bellevue, a bloody face.
So not terrible, but not great. Let's just get right into it. So first on the chain here is I'm going to use the Ableton Auto Shift. This is a pretty new plugin now. We're going to set the key. I think the key of the song is F sharp major. I already have that set here. And we're gonna.
There is a fire not without it on Bellevue.
Now, if this is set to 0, it's gonna be basically like a 0 retune speed in Antares. It's gonna be very hard. So we're gonna just dial that back until it starts to sound a little bit gentler.
There is a fire not without it on Bellevue, a bloody face coming, you were a time bombing.
Now, I don't have great control, but I do have pretty good consistency, so I'm going to set this to about 15 milliseconds here because I think that's sounding pretty smooth to me.
There is a fire not without it on Bellevue.
We might come back to that. The other thing in auto shift is this is really important, the register here. So this is like kind of where your voice is, high, mid, or bass. And you can see I have it set to mid here.
There is a fire not.
Even though the little light indicator is indicating that I'm singing in what they consider to be the high register, if I click this,
there is a fire not without it on Bellevue.
I'm just hearing a little bit of artifacts that I'm not really liking,
Without it on Bellevue.
Yeah, that's no good. So the mid is better at accommodating the highs than the high setting is at accommodating the mids, if that makes sense. So we're going to use that for now, mid, and we're not going to touch anything else here. There's some cool settings in here to play with, like,
Without it on Bellevue.
but we're just going to keep it pretty natural for this one. Let's go ahead and get a little bit of compression on there. So we're going to use the Ableton compressor here, which I never cared for, to be honest. Never use it, but it's what we're working with today. So I'm going to set this to like 3.5 or something. We're going to just open up the attack and release quite a bit here.
There is a fire not.
I like to see it in this mode because this is just the way I'm used to. The other thing with the R comp is for vocals, well, you can experiment with both, but I like to use it on peak mode. The difference between peak and RMS is peak is just like a standard compression where once the peak of the audio here crosses a threshold, you start to compress. What RMS is it is when the average loudness of the signal crosses the threshold. So not necessarily the peak, and it's called RMS. That stands for root mean squared. Root mean squared average is a method for determining the average value of a function. So we're going to keep it on peak mode for the vocal.
There is a fire.
As we drag the threshold down, you'll hear the vocal kind of compress and flatten out. So we're going to just find that sweet spot for here.
There is a fire not without it on Bellevue, a bloody face coming, you were a time bombing.
Now that that's in there, let's actually go in here and add a little EQ. I like, for this case, we're going to actually toss this in before the compressor. Now, why did we put the compressor on first? Doesn't really matter. We're just building this chain. It doesn't, the big thing about mixing and building chains like this is like, I think there's a misconception that it's like, oh, you just put one plugin after the other. But really it is an engineering, like problem solving exercise. Like it's not just, if it was as easy as just like having the same set of plugins in the same order every time, then, well, I wouldn't have a job. So, and that's what we're trying to teach here. We're trying to teach the method for actually building a chain that's going to sound good. So we're going to toss this EQ on, and I am going to put it before the compressor. We will have more compression and EQ later down the chain. Basically, the building blocks here of a vocal chain is, you know, your pitch correction and then a combination of saturation, EQ, and compression to kind of build the tone. Do not like, do not subscribe. Don't leave a comment. And so we're going to toss this EQ on here. And the first move with the EQ is I'm going to roll off the lows. Now you're going to see all this low information down here. I want to roll off everything below what's called the lowest fundamental frequency. So this tone right here, where you see that peak, that's like where the information of the voice ends. So we don't want anything below that. Anything below that is just kind of bumps and thumps, like. You know, we don't need any of that. And the reason why we rolled this off before the compressor is because this stuff down here, this sound down here, that's affecting the peak value that's going into the compressor. So when we roll this off, we're actually going to reduce the peak value that's going into the compressor. And so we can maybe hammer the compression just a little harder than it was because we're going to get less gain reduction. There is a buyer not allowed in on Bellevue, a bloody face coming. For this one too, I'm just going to give it a little lift. Again, this is a fairly aggressive lift here, but that's because, again, I'm using the SM7B here. This is a dark microphone. I don't think in the original song she probably sung on a dynamic. It's probably a large diaphragm condenser. That's just the common kind of mic for studio vocals. So I'm giving a little bit of a brighter sound than I maybe normally would, a brighter EQ move than I would normally go on a condenser mic. There is a buyer not allowed in on Bellevue. So the other thing with kind of building the chain is we're going to use really broad strokes at first, and that's kind of the key thing, is you don't want to get too into the weeds. I think that's a big mistake you can get trapped in when you're building a chain, is getting a little bit too detailed with the settings before it starts gelling and before it starts coming together. We want to paint with broad strokes when we're putting everything together, and then increasingly as it comes together, make smaller and smaller moves. So the next thing we're going to do here is we are going to put a little bit of a let's put a little saturation on here. So let's use the Roar plugin. The Roar is Ableton's new well, it's not that new anymore, but new-ish in the grand scheme of things. And I like this plugin because you swore you'd raise our kiss to end up just like you. We can use it. We can use it similar to FabFilter Saturn, where you get a multiband mode. So in multiband mode, we get the three bands of saturation here. And what I'm going to do for this vocal is I am going to I'm going to change they have these different algorithms for the type of saturation. I'm going to go down to use the tube preamp for both the mids and the highs. I just like the way that sounds on the vocal. And I'm not going to touch the lows right now, but you can see they do have, like, this is where the lows start at 200 hertz and below, and the highs start at 2K. You can tweak those if you want, but we're just going to leave those be for now. And I'm just going to give a little color here. So, well, no wonder you lost man. Here it just gets really crunchy real quick. So we're just going to add a touch, just barely a piece. Well, no wonder you lost man. I'm in love with someone new. So you can kind of crank this, and then you can. Well, no wonder you lost man. I'm in love with someone new, and I'm going. And we're gonna give it a little sizzle on the top end here. Well, no wonder you lost man. I'm in love with someone new, and I'm going to Savannah. Another thing you can do with the Roar, or any plugin really, is you can really drive it a lot. So these are the individual bands here, but you can drive the overall drive up
Well, no wonder you lost man.
to maybe more aggressive than it should be, and then dial back the dry wet if you wanted to.
Well, no wonder you lost man. I'm in love.
It's getting a little harsh though. I think I just like it where it was there.
Well, no wonder you lost man. I'm in love with someone new.
All right, and let's give it a little bit of reverb. So I'm going to use the hybrid reverb. Now, I don't normally use this reverb that much. It's or I guess I only use it when I'm building these stock vocal chains, really. But it is a cool reverb, and we're gonna get it dialed here. So we want a kind of a big, long, like open, spacious, but not too metallic. I want a really warm sound too. You know?
'Cause I see signs from God, not yet lightly on the wire. You see him in the water and you try to start a fire. Burn bridges.
I do like how on the hybrid reverb they have this EQ mode here, so you can actually sculpt just the reverb signal as if it were on a return. It's really nice.
'Cause I see signs from God, not yet lightly on the wire. You see him in the water and you try to start a fire. Burn bridges east of Atlanta. Well, no wonder you lost man. Now I'm in love with someone new, and I'm going to Savannah.
That sounded pretty decent. Let's give a quick listen real quick to how the original sounded, see how close we are, and then tweak from there. So I'm going to play the original mix that I did here.
There is a fire not allowed in on Bellevue.
That's maybe a little too reverby now that I'm hearing it in context. But we're not far off. I think this one still is a little bit thinner and a little bit crispier. Not that we need to get it exactly the same, but that is kind of, just as a comparison.
There is a fire not allowed in on Bellevue. A bloody face coming.
Turn that reverb down on the new one just a little bit here. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm not liking this. I think this shelf is a little too... I'm not sure I'm into it. Now, if I lower the shelf, it is going to affect these downstream plugins here, but this is what I'm talking about when we're talking about making small moves iteratively. I'm going to put the channel EQ on after the saturation and the compression. Now, we're going to give that lift up here. Just a little lift, not as much as it was. And we're going to go back here and we're going to make a surgical cut to kind of reduce some of the harshness.
There is a fire not allowed in on Bellevue. A bloody face coming.
So, people say different things about the hunting and sweeping technique, but
there is a fire not allowed in on Bellevue.
I'm just going to do it,
There is a fire not allowed in on Bellevue. A bloody face coming. A time bombing. You swore you'd raise IQs to end up just like you, but you're a boss.
Now, let's talk about really quickly de-essing in Ableton. This is actually a place where I think there's not a lot of great options, and I know there's some like Max for Live devices and people have made some cool stuff, but just right out of the stock options ready to go, we don't have a really great option to go here. But we do. I think this is a decent try. Is this the split band de-esser? This is a preset for the multi-band dynamics, and it gives you this middle band between 3K and 10K that is going to suppress the S's. So the most egregious S here is on You Swore.
You swore, you swore, you swore, you swore, you swore.
So as we reduce this this threshold, you'll hear it suppress that whole frequency band between 3K and 10K.
You swore you'd raise IQs to end up just. You swore you'd raise IQs.
And I'm going to raise this up to 15 actually because
you swore you'd raise IQs.
But we don't actually want that much suppression. We just want it to kiss it.
You swore you'd raise IQs. You swore you'd raise IQs to. You swore you'd raise You swore you'd raise
That's much better. And now that I'm hearing this too, let's actually swap these, because what I don't want is I don't want to be boosting the S's into this. So let's swap these real quick and then tweak from there, because I do want that high end lift, but I want the high end lift happening after we de-ess.
You swore you'd raise IQ.
Now the de-esser doesn't sound quite as clean, so we're going to just drop that threshold again.
You swore you'd raise IQ.
There we go. And now let's actually give this a little bit more.
You swore you'd raise IQs to end up just like you. But you're a false prophet, and that's a goddamn promise. 'Cause I see signs from God, and I tread lightly on.
Now let's listen to the original again.
You swore you'd raise IQs to end up just like you. But you're a false prophet. You swore you'd raise IQs to end up just like you. But you're a false prophet.
Now, I don't, I did a pretty quick and dirty mix on the original, so I don't think we necessarily need to match it exactly, but it is still a bit thinner, so I'm just going to drop this down here or actually, let's do that on the channel EQ up here. This one, we'll just drop that a little bit more down here.
You swore you'd raise IQs to end up just like you. But you're a false prophet.
And then let's give it a little bit, just to finish things off here. Now, I'm pretty happy with the tone so far, but let's just give, one more layer of compression right before a final stage before the reverb. And we're just gonna tap that to control some peaks here. Just glue everything together a little more.
I see signs from God, and I tread lightly on the wire. See him in the water, and you try to start a fire. Burn bridges east of Atlanta. Well, no one.
When it comes to building the vocal chain, this really it's a process, and it's, each thing in the chain affects everything else downstream of the chain. So as you're tweaking, you have to keep that in mind, and things are going to move around, and you're going to, you can't just put the plugins in a certain order and expect it to work. This is about really crafting a sound more than it is just applying a series of plugins. And I think you can actually get a lot of great sounding mixes with the stock stuff. Okay, let's listen to it. Try, and then with this chain here.
There is a fire not allowed in on Bellevue.
Turn it on.
A bloody face coming. You were a time bomb.
And we're gonna play.
'Cause I see signs from God, and I tread lightly on the wire. You see him in the water, and you try to start a fire. Burn bridges east of Atlanta. Well, no wonder you lost man. Now I'm in love with someone new, and I'm going to Savannah.
And there you have it. That's all there is. So if you do want to download this whole project, you can download this whole project with the chain and everything in the description below. It's for sale, and it helps me just keep making these videos. And let me know if you want anything specific in terms of Ableton tutorials or vocal processing. I'm just trying to make more videos and share what I've learned with you all, and I'm having a blast doing it. So I will catch you next video. Thanks for watching. Okay, see you soon.